My husband stole my bank account, draining it until only $5 remained. He then surprised my sister with a luxury car and a new house at her birthday party, where he publicly proposed to her. My parents supported his decision. The next week, my sister called about unpaid rent. I just smiled, knowing they'd soon be shocked by my surprise. I'm Kelly. Until recently, I thought I had my life all figured out. My husband, Frank, and I were happy living in a nice apartment in a good neighborhood. We both had stable jobs. I worked as a marketing manager, and Frank was the head of sales at a sports nutrition company. Our plan was simple: save money for a house and then start a family. We lived a modest life, sharing one car. Every morning, Frank would drop me off at work on his way to his office, and I would find my own way home in the evening. It wasn't always easy, but we stayed focused on our goals. Everything changed when Frank's sister, Julie, came to stay with us. She was a widow with 3 young kids, and after losing her husband in a tragic accident, our in-laws were very protective of her. They didn't want her to feel lonely, so they sent her to stay with us. Frank was thrilled when she arrived, eagerly helping her with her bags. I smiled and went along with it. Sure, it'll be nice to spend time together, I said. At first, Frank's kindness toward Julie and her kids was sweet. He played with the children, listened to her problems, and made sure they were comfortable. But as days turned into weeks, his attention to Julie became overwhelming. He started expecting me to help her too. Kelly, can you do Julie's laundries? Why don't you take her shopping? She needs a break. After working all day, I now had to take care of Julie and her kids as well. I was exhausted, but Frank didn't seem to notice. One day, he told me firmly, "Julie is going through a tough time. We need to make her feel comfortable. Can't you be more understanding?" I stared at him in disbelief. "Frank, I'm trying, but I'm exhausted. I work all day, then come home to cook and clean for everyone." I felt invisible, like my feelings didn't matter anymore. "I need a break too," I said, feeling exhausted and frustrated. Frank frowned, unhappy with my response. "Julie is a single mom. She needs our support. You should be more understanding," he argued. Frank's constant attention to Julie and her kids made me feel pushed aside. Days turned into weeks, and Julie showed no sign of leaving. After long, tiring hours at the ad agency, I would come home only to cook and clean for everyone. Frank often criticized me, making me feel like nothing I did was good enough. One evening, as he complained about the food being too spicy for Julie, I nearly broke down. "Frank, I'm doing my best. I'm tired too, you know," I said, holding back tears. He quickly snapped back, defending Julie. "She's exhausted and busy with the kids. She doesn't have time to cook." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I understand that, but no buts, Kelly. We need to support her," he interrupted firmly. I nodded silently, avoiding another argument. I knew Julie was struggling, but I was exhausted too. I just wanted our life to go back to normal. One evening, as I washed the dinner dishes, I thought about how much had changed between Frank and me. Something felt different, and I was scared of where this was heading. Then, Frank suddenly broke the quiet. "Kelly, we need to talk," he said, leaning against the kitchen counter. I dried my hands, a bad feeling settling in my chest. "What is it?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "Julie is thinking about moving here for a job," he said, sounding excited. My heart skipped a beat. This came out of nowhere. "Oh, that's unexpected," I said carefully. "Yeah, isn't it great?" Frank continued, not noticing my discomfort. "And here's what I was thinking. You could quit your job and stay home to take care of the house and kids." The plate in my hand nearly slipped. The plate in my hand almost slipped and crashed into the sink. "Excuse me, you can't be serious," I stammered. Frank's face was firm. "I am serious. Julie needs to work, and someone has to take care of the kids." I was shocked. "Frank, I'm not giving up my career to babysit someone else's children. That's not fair." "What's not fair," he shot back, "is expecting Julie to do everything alone." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Let's think about this. Where does Julie plan to live if she gets this job?" Before Frank could answer, Julie strolled into the kitchen, grinning. "Oh, didn't Frank tell you? I'll be moving in here with my amazing brother. He's always been so supportive." I turned to Frank, my eyes demanding an explanation. He looked uncomfortable. "Kelly, can we talk about this later?" he muttered, avoiding my gaze. "No, Frank. We need to talk now," I insisted, my voice shaking. "I'm not okay with this. It's already crowded with just the 3 of us." Suddenly, Frank's face lit up as if he had a brilliant idea. "But, honey, this is perfect. We've been planning to buy a house anyway. Now we have an even better reason to move sooner. There will be plenty of space for everyone." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Frank, that's not the point. We can't just..." Before I could finish, he cut me off, already distracted. "Sorry, Kelly. We'll talk later. I promised the kids I'd play with them. And just like that, he was gone, leaving me standing there, speechless. From that day on, things changed. Frank stopped driving me to work, always with the same excuse. Sorry, babe, I'm really busy this morning. I knew something was off, but I had no proof. I was now dealing with my commute alone, on top of everything else. One afternoon, I came home early, hoping to rest and maybe cook dinner in peace. But as soon as I walked in, I was met with chaos. Julie was lounging on the couch, glued to a reality TV show, while her kids ran wild. Julie, I said, trying to stay calm. What's going on here? She barely looked up. Oh, hey, Kelly. The kids were bored, so I let them play. I glanced around in horror. The walls were covered in crayon scribbles. The sofa had strange stains. My beloved houseplants were knocked over, dirt scattered everywhere. This isn't playing, Julie. This is destroying our home, I said, struggling to hold back my frustration. I spoke to Julie, but she just shrugged and turned back to the TV. They're just kids, Kelly. Relax, she said. I took a deep breath, silently counting to 10. Trying to steer the conversation in a better direction, I asked, Julie, Marty looking for a job? Any luck? She waved her hand dismissively. Oh, I've sent my resume to a bunch of places, but nothing good has come up. They all want too much work for too little pay. I'm not that desperate. I clenched my teeth, holding back my frustration. Of course, she wasn't desperate. She was living comfortably in our home while Frank and I paid for everything and handled all the chores. That night, as Frank and I got ready for bed, I tried to talk to him again. Frank, we need some rules. Julie can't just let the kids run wild, and she needs to help with the housework. Frank sighed, clearly annoyed. Kelly, she's going through a rough time. Can't you give her a break? A break? Frank, I have been giving her a break for weeks. Our home is a disaster. I'm doing everything, and somehow, I'm the bad guy for asking for help. Keep your voice down, he muttered. You'll wake everyone up. I know it's not perfect, but she's family. We have to stick together. Later, as I lay in bed listening to Frank's steady breathing, I couldn't help but wonder, when did stop being part of this family? And how much longer could I live like this? Days passed, then weeks. The house only became more chaotic. Frank acted as if nothing was wrong, completely ignoring the mess and stress his sister and her kids were causing. Anytime I tried to bring some order, Julie would run to Frank with complaints. One evening, I overheard her talking to him, pretending to be concerned. Frank, I don't think Kelly likes the kids. She's always telling them off and making them clean. They're just children, you know? I waited, hoping Frank would defend me, explain that asking for basic cleanliness wasn't unreasonable. Instead, I heard him sigh. I'm sorry, Julie. I'll talk to her. That night, Frank confronted me in our bedroom. Look at this place, Kelly. It's a mess. If you can't handle it with the kids around, then maybe. I tensed, already dreading what he was about to say. Maybe what, Frank? I cut in. Maybe you should quit your job. If you stayed home full time, you could keep things in order and wouldn't have to stress about the kids. I stared at him, speechless. I let out a bitter laugh, a mix of disbelief and anger. So, now, expecting kids to clean up after themselves is child labor? Frank, do you even hear yourself? But he wasn't really listening. He had been pushing this idea for a while, and honestly I was tired of fighting it. You know what, Frank? Fine. You want me to quit? I quit, I said. But in my mind, I was already forming a different plan. His eyes widened in surprise. Really? You mean it? I nodded. Yep. I'll call work tomorrow, and let them know. Frank's face lit up with a huge grin, and he hugged me tightly, not even noticing how stiff I was. Oh, Kelly, this is amazing. You'll see. Everything will be better now. The next day, I did call work, but not to quit. Instead, I explained to my boss that I needed some personal time to sort things out at home. I hinted that changes were coming, but didn't give too many details. Luckily, I had recently trained an intern who was ready to step in, and my boss was supportive. I requested 1 month of unpaid leave. When I told Frank that I was temporarily leaving my job, he beamed with pride. He even exchanged a knowing look with Julie, as if saying, "See, I knew Kelly would understand the importance of family." Watching them celebrate, I felt like an outsider in my own home. But, I reminded myself, this was only for 6 months. I needed time to see how things would play out, to see if Frank would finally realize the problems in our setup. The next morning, Frank kissed my cheek before heading to work. "Have a great day at home," he said, fully confident that I would handle everything just fine. I forced a smile, waved him off, then turned to face the chaos inside the house. Julie was sprawled on the couch, remote in hand, while her kids ran wild. From that day on, my life became an endless cycle of cleaning, cooking, and childcare. Each morning, I woke up at dawn to prepare breakfast, pack Frank's lunch, and spend the rest of the day scrubbing, washing, and running after Julie's kids. Meanwhile, Julie treated every day like a vacation. She often left the house to shop or meet friends for coffee, casually dumping her kids on me without a second thought. As the days blurred together, I found myself watching Julie drive off in Frank's car while I stayed stuck at home, drowning in housework and childcare. Frank, on the other hand, seemed completely unaware. He would come home, give me a quick peck on the cheek, and casually ask, "So, how was your day?" As if this was the life I had chosen. I had always dreamed of building a life with Frank, not sacrificing everything for his sister's comfort. One evening, as I served a dinner I had spent hours preparing, while Julie took a nap, Frank casually announced that Julie's birthday was coming up. He had planned something special and told her to keep the evening of the 14th free. On her birthday, we all drove to Polo's Mexican, the most expensive restaurant in town. It was a place Frank and I had once dreamed of visiting for our anniversaries but had always decided against to save money for a house. When we arrived, Frank's parents were already there. They greeted Julie warmly, showering her with attention, while barely acknowledging me. As we sat down, I felt more like an outsider than a guest at the celebration. The entire dinner conversation revolved around Julie, her struggles, her strengths, her dreams. I stayed quiet, feeling more invisible with each passing moment. After the main course, Frank stood up and tapped his glass for a toast. He spoke about how strong and resilient Julie was, saying how much he admired her. The room filled with applause. Then, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. For a brief second, my heart leaped. Could this be for me? Was he about to show his appreciation for everything I had done? But as he turned toward Julie, my excitement vanished. "Julie, I know you've been struggling to get around with the kids," Frank said. He opened the box, revealing a set of car keys. "Happy birthday, sis. Here's your very own car, just like you always wanted." The room erupted in cheers and applause. Julie jumped up and hugged Frank tightly. "Oh my God, Frank, I can't believe this. You're the best brother ever." Meanwhile, I sat there, frozen, my mind racing. A car? He bought her a car? Memories flooded back. So many times I had told Frank that we needed a second car. Every single time, he had dismissed it, saying we needed to save money for our house. I swallowed hard, trying to stay calm. "Frank," I started, my voice shaking. I looked at Frank and asked, "Why did you buy such an expensive gift for Julie?" The room went silent. Everyone stared at us. Frank's smile faded slightly. "Well, Julie really needs a car. It's hard for her to take the kids to the park or the doctor, and she'll need it when she starts her job." His words hit me like a slap. "And what about us? I've been asking for a second car for months." Frank's face hardened. "Kelly, you're home all day. You don't need a car." His dismissive tone felt like a punch to the stomach. How much did this car cost Frank? He shifted uncomfortably. $45,000. The room seemed to spin. $45,000? Your sister needed this car, but I didn't. My patience was gone. I had sacrificed my job, my dreams, and my identity for this family. Frank's face turned red with anger. "If you're going to be so selfish and difficult, fine. I'll take out a loan and put the money back." "No," I snapped, not caring about the scene we were causing. "I don't want a loan. I want you to sell the car and return our savings." Julie, who had been quiet until now, suddenly spoke up. "See, Frank? I told you she was controlling. She always wants to run everything." Frank's parents nodded in agreement. His father spoke sternly. "Kelly, you need to understand your place. Frank is the head of this household." I felt like I was drowning in judgment. My heart pounded. Frank suddenly stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "That's enough, Kelly. You've ruined the evening with your behavior. Don't you know how to act in public?" Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I took a deep breath, grabbed my purse, and stood up. "I'm leaving." My voice was steady. Frank, now ignoring the shocked looks from other diners, exploded. "Get out, you ungrateful freeloader. I'm the one making the money, and you dare to question me? Maybe if you actually worked, you'd have a say." His words hit me like daggers. I wanted to scream that I hadn't quit my job, that I was only on leave. But what was the point? They had already made up their minds about me. I turned and walked out of the restaurant, his angry words still echoing behind me, about how I lived off him and dared to complain. The cold night air hit my face as tears finally spilled down my cheeks. Humiliation, anger, and something else, a firm decision forming in my heart. This was over. When I reached our apartment, my hands trembled as I tried to unlock the door. Inside, Julie looked up in surprise as I stormed in, my face streaked with tears. I walked straight to our bedroom. I packed my suitcase without thinking, just clothes, essentials, and a few things that meant the most to me. I left Frank a short note. I'm at a hotel. Don't contact me. The hotel room felt empty, but at least it was a safe space. That night, I barely slept, replaying the awful dinner in my head. By morning, I knew what I had to do. As soon as her office opened, I called a well-known divorce Scot, Helen Hadsell. Sitting in her office, I told her everything. How my marriage had slowly fallen apart, how Frank had betrayed me financially, and the humiliation I had endured. Julie listened carefully, taking notes. Based on what you've told me, you have strong grounds for divorce, she said when I finished. Determined to start fresh, I found a small apartment near my job and asked to return to work early. My boss quickly agreed. As I settled into a new routine, I hoped for a peaceful divorce. I didn't want revenge, just fairness. During our first mediation session, I kept it simple. Let's handle this calmly. Just return the money you used for your sister's car, and we can split the rest of our savings equally. Frank scoffed. That car was a gift. You're being unreasonable. It soon became clear we weren't going to settle this easily. After several frustrating meetings, I realized we would have to take it to court. The next few months became a blur of legal battles. Frank fought me every step of the way, trying to make me look bad. Finally, after what felt like forever, the judge made her decision. Mr. Johnson used shared funds to buy a car for his sister without his wife's consent. This was unlawful. He must repay Mrs. Johnson half the car's value and cover all legal fees. Relief washed over me. This wasn't just about money, it was about justice. About being heard. About standing up for myself. Frank was furious as we left the courthouse. I hope you're happy, he hissed. You're just greedy. In the weeks that followed, he obeyed the court order. He transferred the money to my account, though he had to take out a loan to do it. I felt no guilt. His choices led us here. Now, we were both dealing with the consequences. 4 months after the divorce, I had finally found peace. My little apartment was calm and quiet, the complete opposite of my old life. I reconnected with old friends, threw myself into my job, and even started a small herb garden on my balcony. For the first time in a long time, I felt happy. One quiet Thursday, a knock at the door startled me. Peeking through the peephole, my heart skipped a beat. Frank. He looked tired, messy, and anxious. Curiosity got the best of me, and I opened the door. Kelly, he said, his voice rough. Can we talk? I hesitated but finally stepped aside to let him in. He glanced around my neat, cozy apartment. You look good, he said softly. And the place looks nice. Thanks, I replied cautiously. What brings you here? Frank collapsed onto the couch, clearly troubled. I messed up, Kelly. I see that now, he admitted. I came to apologize and ask for your help. I sat across from him, waiting for him to continue. He sighed heavily and confessed that he had lost his job due to company downsizing. He was struggling financially, still burdened by the loan for Julie's car. Julie refuses to sell the car or find a job, he said, rubbing his face. She says she's not ready yet. I felt a small sense of satisfaction, but I stayed calm. I'm sorry to hear that, Frank, I said evenly. But, I don't see how I can help. He looked at me, desperation in his eyes. Our apartment is a mess. Julie doesn't clean, and the kids are out of control. We're at risk of eviction because of the mess and noise. He exhaled shakily. I finally understand. Julie isn't just struggling. She's using me, and I let it happen. As he spoke, I felt a mix of emotions, vindication, pity, even a bit of sadness. He finally saw the truth, but it was too late. Frank's voice wavered. I want a fresh start, Kelly. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I miss us. I've learned so much. Maybe with your help, we could fix things. For a moment, his words took me back to the early days of our marriage, our shared dreams, our plans for the future. But then, the pain of his betrayal, the humiliation, and all those months of feeling unseen and unappreciated came rushing back. I took a deep breath. Frank, I appreciate your apology, and I'm sorry for what you're going through. But I can't go back. His face fell, but he didn't give up. Kelly, I've changed. I see everything so clearly now. I spoke softly, but firmly. And I've changed too, Frank. These past few months have shown me my own strength and what I deserve. If you could betray me once, what's stopping you from doing it again when things get hard? I wouldn't, he insisted. I've learned my lesson. Maybe you have, I said gently, but that doesn't change my decision. I nodded. Maybe you have, but that doesn't change the fact that I've found happiness and freedom on my own. I enjoy making my own decisions without worrying about a partner who didn't appreciate me. Frank's shoulders slumped in defeat. So, there's no chance for us? He asked quietly. I stood up, signaling the conversation was over. It's best you leave, Frank. I really do hope things get better for you, but I'm not the solution. You need to rely on yourself and make your own choices. He nodded slowly and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back one last time. I really am sorry, Kelly, for everything. I know, I said softly. Goodbye, Frank. As I closed the door behind him, I leaned against it and let out a deep breath. A rush of emotions filled me: sadness for the dreams we once had, a small sense of triumph that he finally saw his mistakes. But more than anything, I felt free.